sometimes listening to a teacher or a mentor or a friend helps more than simply reading the textbooks. That is exactly what we are trying to do with you for the VisionIAS Fast-Track Prelims Course. Your brain is already highly receptive, behaving like a sponge, ready to absorb any information. Align your thinking in a manner which is aligned with UPSC examination. The PT365 material, which has a proven 10 years of excellence record and of course is one of the most sought after material currently in the UPSC preparation arena. Hello students. Do you remember that during your school or college days when you used to prepare for an examination, almost every time when you would study something at the last, it would definitely come in the exam? Or let's say when your mom used to help you prepare and any question or topic that she pointed out would definitely come in the examination and you would feel happy about it. Sometimes also right before entering the examination hall, you would be so tense thinking about what am I going to do, how am I going to write, and suddenly that friend comes to you frantically telling you, hey, have you studied that topic? Let's quickly revise the core concepts in that topic. And just when you did it, you remembered it so perfectly that you wrote it absolutely well in the examination. Those moments in life when someone just tells you the right thing at the right time and it feels great, feels like magic. It feels like something good has happened with you. But you know what? These moments are not just magic. There is a scientific process to it. And the reason is this process is revision done right. How you do your revision matters. Now, sometimes we feel that, reading too much text, reading too many books will help us. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes somebody has just uttered one sentence. For example, somebody told you, the Sangai deer is in the Kibul Lamjao National Park. And that your memory would just retain it. And when you're in the examination, those words would echo in your mind. Which is why sometimes listening to a teacher or a mentor or a friend helps more than simply reading the textbooks. And this is also the reason why audiobooks are increasingly becoming very popular. Now imagine somebody doing all that for you when you're preparing for UPSC. Somebody helping you prepare your notes last minute. Of course, not expecting you to do the hard work, but compiling and consolidating all that matters in this examination. The core concepts, the important points, the key priority areas, all consolidated at one place and taught to you in a very effective and fast-track manner. That is exactly what we are trying to do with you for the VisionIAS Fast-Track Prelims Course. Now, why does this last-minute revision, last 1 month, last 2-month revision, why does it matter so much? Number one, your brain is on high alert mode. Your brain is already highly receptive, behaving like a sponge, ready to absorb any information. So anything that the teacher tells you here and now becomes absolutely important. Of course, the memory is relatively more fresher as compared to what you may have studied or read or heard in the class, let's say 1 year ago. So there is a recency advantage also. And then you're focusing on the main key points. There is a sense of urgency and there is a sense of clarity that is involved in such a program. Which is why it is extremely important to take care of your last minute revisions, especially right 2 months before the examination. So let's see what revisions can do for you. In a fast-track program, you can not only cover the GS Prelims subject, but you can also get access to mentorship and guidance. In addition to that, you also have access to PT365 current affairs classes. Now for environment, we know that PT365 or let's say current affairs has a very, very important role to play. There are so many news items that come in the newspaper almost on a daily basis, and it is impossible for us to keep a track of everything. With all the revisions, the tests, the optionals, so much to manage that it is extremely difficult for one person to keep a tab on everything. Which is why these fast-track prelims courses or classes help you integrate what you already know, revise the course concepts in your static portion with current affairs. To give you an example, you know, Australia has declared a state of disaster, especially because of these bushfire. Now, these bushfires have almost become an annual event in Australia. But UPSC is not going to ask you about where these bushfires are and, you know, why are they occurring. This is a very limited topic. You need to go in one step further in order to ace the prelims examination, which is far more object-oriented. So for example, on the topic of, let's say, wildfires, UPSC can ask you a comparison between Australian bushfires and Californian wildfires. These two phenomena are happening, recurring almost every year, and which is why UPSC can ask you a question. So pause this video for a minute and try answering this question. Now, let's see the difference between the two. Australian bushfires versus Californian wildfires. Australian bushfires, the type of climate is already hot and semi-arid. California, on the other hand, has a Mediterranean climate. The Australian bushfires are fueled by highly flammable forests and trees such as the eucalyptus, and the Californian wildfires are chaparral or oak forests. You can also see that while the extent of bushfires in Australia is much higher geographically, but the Californian wildfires, though smaller in extent, have a more larger economic damage than the Australian bushfires. Now, these are topics which will not be covered in the newspapers. The newspaper will simply tell you about the extent of damage, the loss, whatever the country is reeling under. But this is what you have to do for UPSC. We have to go one step further, and which is why it is very important to have someone to handhold you, guide you, and align your thinking in a manner which is aligned with UPSC examination. I'll give you another example. You remember this question which UPSC asked in 2025 from Environment? They asked how many of them contain plastics: cigarette butts, eyeglass lenses, and car tires. The answer, yes, was definitely all three. But the question is, how do we prepare for such questions? How do we know what questions UPSC can ask? There could be so many sources of plastic. The point is, you need a mentor, you need a teacher who can tell you about these small items in news which have a larger impact. For example, look at this. It says disease carrying microplastics. Now, this is something which is relatively unheard of. We always think of microplastics in the sense of pollution, plastic pollution. But these are disease carrying. That means they have the ability to carry certain variants of, let's say, microorganisms or pathogens which can cause diseases and antimicrobial resistance in human beings. And disease-carrying microplastics are in the air we breathe. So they've become inhalable microplastics, not just in water or land, but also in the air. So what does a faculty do for you in this case? The faculty tells you that disease-carrying microplastics, how are they defined? Where are they actually present? How they carry pathogenic microbes. They are not currently calculated in the PM 2.5 or PM 10 standards yet. The study talks about cities like Delhi, Kolkata, Mumbai, and Chennai. So we discuss a little bit about their performance. And finally, what are the sources of inhalable microplastics? Do you know the synthetic clothes that you wear is the #1 source for such inhalable microplastics? And then, of course, you have plastic fragments and tire dust. So these are topics which are there in the news, which are just mentioned in an article. But what you need right now is a summary of these topics. What you need is a little bit of guidance and hand-holding as to, Apart from what you read in the static portion in your pollution related topics, you also need a little bit of garnishing and twist of what is there in the current affairs. Which is why your last minute revisions, your last minute preparation is extremely, extremely important. And to top it all, of course, you have the PT365 material, which has a proven 10 years of excellence record, and of course is one of the most sought after material currently in the UPSC preparation arena. So your Fast-Track Prelims course is a complete solution for those of you who are looking for a quick revision of the static portion along with whatever is going on in the news and the current affairs, and clubbing them together to quickly, fast, and in a very effective manner revise whatever you may have done over the course of these years. I wish you all the best for your prelims preparation. Thank you.